Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. So I wanted to record a video today to explain about the document procedure and how KCC are most likely organizing their work. I'll show you in a few moments some evidence that I've gathered, also a couple of questions that people have asked me, and I'll show you one of the typical questions. There seems to be some skepticism about how the document procedure works, and particularly how KCC organize their work. The statement from KCC is that documents are processed in case number order, and many of you choose to see some of the evidence and misinterpret that evidence to misunderstand that and say that that's not real, that it's some sort of lie or whatever. It's not a lie. It is how they work, and there's very clear evidence of that, which I want to show you to make sure we're all on the same page. Coincidentally, I received a message from Curtis Morrison, who offered what he called a theory about how KCC process the documents, how they order things. I'm pretty sure that his theory is frankly what I've described before, but his theory is based around the inbox of KCC, and I think that's probably a better way to describe it than I have described it before. So I think I think that's probably worth going into, and I think it's always been the most likely explanation for the way they operate. But I thought I was doing a good job of explaining it before, which apparently I've not, because people still question it. So let me, I'm going to show you my screen, and I'll show you some pieces of evidence that I've gathered, and I'll explain how I've interpreted that to mean that I believe the statement that KCC processed by document order. And I'll explain some of the anomalies we see that some people choose to interpret differently and suggest that it's not done that way. Okay, so let's have a look at that now. Okay, so this was the question and answer that prompted me to create this video, frankly, along with an understanding of how people are looking at things. And so this person posted on my blog and posted a question saying, "What's my opinion about the statement regarding documents?" And the statement he's referring to is, "Documents are processed in numerical order based on lottery rank number." Yes, and I've said yes. I've explained that many times. And sometimes there are no backlogs, so some high cases get processed early on. Not a mystery. It is logical, but of course Lazo can't accept that explanation, etc. And so he says it's just an excuse now. It's not an excuse. It's true. So let me explain that. If we look at the visa statistics from the Save Diversity Visa site, and we could get the same thing on Zarthisius' site, but I'm just choosing to show this here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this, actually, just make this bigger, just make sure you can see everything. Yeah. So I can look at, actually that's too big. I can look at any of these regions and show you the same thing. You'll notice, for example, if I take the case of Asia, Asia has, for some reason that let's say we don't understand why, in the first 2,000 case numbers, your case is twice as likely to have been processed as if your case number was between 3 and, let's say, 5,500, right? And 3 or 4 times as likely as the next few thousand cases, and multiple times, probably 10 times more likely than these cases, right? What is it? What sort of business process that would cause that sort of behavior where consistently low case numbers, time and time again, seem to get processed at multiples of the other case numbers, right? And then if we look at EU has the same sort of behavior. Magically, at around about case number 9,000, it seems like there is an obvious benefit to be in the first 9,000 cases, and after that point, it's like you fall off a cliff. There isn't the same sort of number of people applying for their visas or sending their documents in, etc., in this range. Well, we know that's not true. That there isn't a good explanation for that unless you understand how KCC are processing documents. Same thing can be said for Africa, same thing for OC, same thing for SA, South America, right? In later case number ranges, there is less activity, less cases are ready for scheduling. Okay, so let's talk about why that would be and why that proves, in my opinion, that the document procedure is based on the case number ordering. Okay. Now, the way I've explained this before is to talk about a desk with a pile of papers on it. But actually, I think it's probably more appropriate to think of this as an email inbox, which is actually what it is, right? And if we think about it as being an email inbox, how would that work, right? So if we look at the document or the email that KCC sends out when they ask you for your documents, they ask you to send certain documents, and they explain to you how you should number your documents, how you should describe them. And as you can see, there's the full case number there, including the leading zeros, right? And it says here, use your case number as the subject of the email. Nothing else. It doesn't say use your case number and your date of birth. It just says use your case number as the subject of the email. That's it, right? And the case number they're talking about would be this piece, okay? And then in my explanation about this, because I found that to be ambiguous, I then went on to explain that the case number, when you're talking to KCC, it needs to be with the leading zeros, because without the leading zeros, they don't seem to understand what the case number is. And with the leading zeros, things just seem to work better with KCC. So I've said clearly here, use that for the document and for the subject, right? So the subject of the email should be your case number with the leading zeros. But I want to demonstrate how things could be working if you don't follow that piece of advice, right? If you put just your case number without the leading zeros, it changes where your case number appears in an alphabetically sorted list. So imagine KCC have got one email box, which may be filtered so that it goes into different folders by region, but whether it's filtered or not doesn't really matter. The point is there should be some sort of numerical order. And Curtis was sort of thinking that somebody was working their way down the list, looking for, which email has, the earlier case number. I don't think humans are doing that at all. I think I suggested to him that it's either a software program doing that. Perhaps they have some sort of software program that is sorting case numbers. Or more likely, and I think this is more likely because it's more low tech, they probably are just using the sorting feature of Outlook or other similar email systems where you can sort by subject. Now, if everybody's been told to put in just the case number in the subject and nothing else, then you would have a list, you would look at an inbox like this, and you would have a list of case numbers as subjects. And if you told Outlook to sort them alphabetically, how would that work, right? So I've put in a few case numbers here to sort of illustrate my point. I've mixed up some AF, OC, and AS region case numbers for a start. I've put in full case numbers with the leading zeros. So this one is case number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it has 3 leading zeros, right? This one is an OC case number of less than 1,000. And I've put in some other numbers that sort of explain, that you'll see in a moment, will explain how things work. But here's an interesting thing. I've also put in a very low case number in Africa, AF 100. So that's case number 100 in Africa. I've done a similar sort of thing in OC, where I've chosen a case number there which is less than the 980 case number here. I've put 970. So you'd expect this one and this one, if they were going by case number order, to be handled earlier, right? Except if they're going by an alphabetical list of which ones are earlier, then it won't work that way. So this particular tool, I found this page and I typed in these case numbers, and I'll now put these numbers in this web page. I'll ask the web page to put them in alphabetical order. Okay, and if we look down here, forget this for a second, I'll just scrape this data. That's the alphabetically sorted list, and I'm just going to put it back up here, and just so you can see the order a little bit more clearly, I'm just going to organize the text here. All I'm doing here is adding in, I'm adding in some carriage returns to put them in a top to bottom list, right? Okay, so we now have case number 350 at the top of the list, which is correct that it's less than AF, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And case number 61700 is after that, so it got that correct. But look where it's put AF 100. It sorted that as the last case in Africa, because alphabetically that's correct. That's where that number belongs alphabetically, right? So, and then if you look at these Asia numbers, Asia got sorted from my list, which was at the bottom. It got sorted at the top. But again, AS2000, because the leading zeros have been missed off, appears in the wrong place compared to case number 510 and case number 15,000. It's actually in the wrong place, right? And same thing here for OC. The OC number is at the bottom of the list. It should have been in front of 980, but it's not because the leading zeros are there. So you may think these leading zeros are unimportant, but they're not unimportant to KCC. And since they've given an instruction, perhaps not as clearly as they should have done, but they've given an instruction that your subject on your email should have just your case number. And we know from other things they've published that it should be the case number with the leading zeros. Then you'll begin to see why, if I'm someone working through a list of emails, I'm going to look at the unsorted list, the sorted list here, and I'm going to do this one, and then this one, and then this one, and this one, okay? Now imagine there's actually 1,000 emails in the box, and I can't, me and my 4 friends who work for me at KCC or work with me at KCC, there's 5 of us, and they've given us that number. Maybe there's 5 people working on this, and maybe they split the work up by region, perhaps, right? Imagine we take one folder each. I'll take Africa, you take Europe, somebody else is going to take Oceania, and so on, right? But we're going to go down this list, and we're going to go in order. And maybe we've got so many cases in our inbox that we can't complete the work in one day. And so when I come into work tomorrow, I'm going to have more emails in that list, and the order will be sorted again, not based on when the cases were submitted, but based on the order. However, that does mean that if I can get to the end of the list, then I can do case number 61700, and I can do case number AF 100 if I'm only looking at AF cases, let's say, right? I can get to those 2 cases, so you will find instances where I can get to the end of my work, and yes, a high case number could have been processed and therefore get ready for scheduling, documentarily qualified, right? But you'll see that somebody who forgot to put in the leading zeros has disadvantaged themselves by putting them at the end of the list, whereas their number should be at the top of that list. Okay? So I hope that's clear. I wanted to explain this and make sure that it's clear to people, and I hope that has made it a little bit more clear. So, okay, I hope that has made things clear for you. So it describes adequately and correctly, I believe, how they've been processing. You may not like what it means for you or for your case, etc., but it's important to understand how things work. For DV 2022 cases, please follow the instructions. Have a look at the blog article. I'll put the blog article that gives you instructions on how to submit your documents to KCC. I'll put that in the link below on the YouTube channel. It's important you follow this instruction and take note of how you write the document case number the case number when you're sending your documents in. It's important. We'll have to see what this means, obviously, for DV 2021 and DV 2020. I also pointed out to Curtis in my response this morning to Curtis, in my opinion, the documents procedure has been the biggest impact to the case, to the DV lottery for some time, including the impact of COVID and Trump and all that sort of stuff. And the reason I say that is that if you look pre-Trump, or rather in the time period after the document procedure was implemented, and before Trump really started banning people and this sort of thing, and before COVID hit us, there were already problems where people just couldn't get their documents processed. And so I think it's quite likely that not following the instructions has led to some people losing their cases because KCC just haven't organized their work very well. Okay, all right. So please make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's important you get the right information, and please do follow the advice that I can give. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, if it was helpful to you, and let me know if you've got any comments. All right. Thank you, everybody. Keep well. Bye-bye.